lovely audience. This is a little video about the positive things of being trans. Now I understand that there's a lot of difficulties and hardships in being transgender, and I don't want this video to undermine those experiences. However, I want to share the parts of being transgender that have been really heartwarming and really affected me for the better as a person. So, let's do it. This is the positive lessons I learned from being transgender. Now, despite saying that there's positive things that made me a better person, quote unquote, for being transgender, that's not to say that's the only way to become kind. That'd be a little silly, don't worry. Trans people and cis people are both valid, and I don't want this video to devalidate that. However, view this video more as the way that my experience as a transgender person actually allowed me to become kinder. Because everyone learns various lessons in different ways. This is just how I did it. So let's go through it, shall we? So one of the big things for me was learning about tolerance. Now, what I mean by that is understanding and respecting people's differences. I lived a pretty sheltered life in a pretty small town, lovely audience. It's a little harder to learn those lessons before you enter a large space of lots of people from all walks of life. And I think early on, when I looked up stuff about being transgender, that's when I got introduced to various forms of difficulties other people face, and understanding those, I think, helped round me out as a person, because I had a very privileged childhood. There's no sugarcoating that. That really warps your perspective when you kind of get what you want in various ways, and you just assume things appear when you ask for them. It can really warp your perspective of reality, and I don't want to have that perspective now, you know what I mean? Sure, YouTube as a job is pretty privileged, to say the least. So it's best I remain grounded and try not to assume that everyone experiences the world the way I do. Everyone's different, and it's a bit strange how people project their own experiences onto what everyone else must obviously do. So I found being transgender actually opened myself up to different ways of life, and understanding that the world isn't so cut and dry, just a simple people do this, people do that. That's not the case. It taught me a lot, and I'm very thankful for that. Another lovely lovely audience was I just found the fashion fun. I'll be real, when I started transitioning, my fault wasn't that I was going against society or whatever. I didn't really understand that at that age. But the part of being transgender that filled me with so much glee and excitement was getting to wear the cute clothes. And sure, everyone has a different way they relate to that part of the journey, but at least for me as a transgender woman, getting to experiment with various skirts, tops, and that kind of thing was really exciting. I always found feminine clothing more fun for me, and everyone has different opinions of that, of course. Personal preference is key, but it was just so fun. I really liked getting to wear cute stuff and really experiment and get better at fashion as I went along my journey. I learned a lot, and it wasn't smooth sailing. A lot of my early outfits were what you would call not good. But I learnt, and it was actually really fun to learn. Hair too, you can do so much with long hair, for example, and that option wasn't allowed of me when I tried living as a boy. And the expectations of what I could and couldn't wear were very restrictive for me. And transitioning was my way to be able to dress the way I wanted and present how I wanted. Because at the end of the day, as my body changed with growing up and then medical transition too, it was really cool getting to look the way I want over time and not feeling restricted by who I was. There was a very specific type of outfit I wore as a teenager when boy moding, lovely audience. It was long tracksuit pants, some kind of nerdy t-shirt, and probably a jacket from karate. What are you gonna do? I didn't have many options, but now I do. Yeah, sure, in videos you watch of me, if you're a regular viewer, you notice I wear the same outfit a lot in these videos. That's just branding purposes. I like wearing all sorts of cute outfits. But white blouses like these are definitely my favorite. Over the years, I have so many at this point. But part of that is because one of the first articles of girls' clothing I ever got was a white flowery blouse, and I think through that became such a special kind of clothing for me. If you happen to be in a situation where you're not able to experiment with clothes just yet, I really recommend dress-up games like Style Boutique and Fashion Dreamer. Those video games are incredible for experimenting with style. Also, Infinity Nikki just came out, and that's free, and that has a similar kind of vibe going on. Another thing being trans taught me was that sexuality isn't, just straightness, right? It wasn't based on your assigned sex at birth, and you can't just have to date what's expected of you. Over time, I learned that you are actually, if you're someone that's attracted to a certain gender or more, that's meant to feel good, as you can imagine. And when I tried to force myself to date girls when I presented as a boy, that didn't feel very good. And I guess presenting as a girl for me is what opened myself up to be allowed to like men. Now I feel like I mention this a lot on the channel. That's because most people either forget or usually put a comment like, yeah, transvians, go, towards me, and it's like, I'm straight, but yeah. But I just happen to be straight. It's chill. All sexualities are valid. Please stop assuming I'm like something else, please. If you don't know my sexuality, don't assume it, please. But point is, I ended up in a lot of situations very early in life that, put me in contact with men in that kind of way a lot earlier than I might have been exposed to that otherwise. So, it worked out because I was a trans woman that liked guys. But if I worked it out in a different order, like if I worked out I liked guys, then worked out I liked being a girl, it probably would have been a very long time before I got to do something with a guy, just knowing myself and my own confidence. The situations kind of came up themselves, really. You start presenting femme, and then guys start taking an interest in you, and you really process that. That's why we really got to not stigmatize sexualities, because I think I just felt like I wasn't allowed to like men, and then when I was finally allowed to like men, I realized I did. So if there's no stigma to sexuality, people would work it out a lot quicker. But hey, what can you do? Another cool positive of finding out I was trans, cheesy, but this channel and the people I've met making it, the various friends I've made through trans communities, and the various people I've met, and also this opportunity to make silly little trans videos to make trans people feel happier. It's been a real honor, truly. At times, I can't believe this is my job sometimes. Sure, I'm very thankful I get to do this. I was a retail worker before YouTube, and I wasn't very good at it. And I understand there's probably other career paths I could do, and YouTube's not forever, right? So there's probably other jobs I'll end up in the future, but for as long as the world lets me, I'll make videos, whether it's my job or not. Content creation is a very privileged job, and I'm very thankful for it, truly. And the hours of editing and filming, it's really worth it, truly. I'm really proud of this opportunity. And for me, that's a very positive part about being trans, because I don't think I'd be in this position if I made videos about something else. Unless I had some kind of mind-blowing story going on in my life otherwise. I mean, the thing that I probably would have done if I wasn't trans is probably teach English in Japan, which I guess is kind of marketable for YouTube, I guess, but whatever. The thing for me is my whole life kind of centered around going to Japan, working in Japan, and having a different job to do instead felt very freeing for me. So I'm very thankful for that. Don't get me wrong, I'm still glad I learned Japanese, and I'm very thankful for the opportunities that it's provided me. And obviously it allows me to be flexible in the future. So it's all around a very positive thing. That all said, saying that a 9 to 5 is easier than content creation and streaming is a little silly. Content creation's not that hard. Remember to respect retail workers, lovely audience. Another positive of being trans was seeing media that represents me, right? When presenting as, a white cis male, media that represents you it kind of feels like a given. You don't really appreciate it because like a lot of media is catered to you, right? But representation, when you're not always getting it, it feels quite nice when you finally get it. So many interesting tales, stories, and games that portray trans experience always touch my heart and like really resonates with me. And that's something I probably wouldn't be able to experience if I wasn't trans. So I'm very thankful to be able to feel that kind of positivity and warmth. Now, any demographic can enjoy all sorts of stories, but there's a certain warmth when you see something that matters to you so much brought in front of you in a way that resonates. And I think that's beautiful. And I'm thankful I can experience such a thing, And lastly, probably the most impactful part of being able to be transgender is that I get to be me, right? If I wasn't able to present how I wanted to present, I'd probably not feel great. I'd probably be pretty sad even. It'd be tough. It's important to be able to express yourself and be you, right? That's why we do this. We don't do it to hit a stereotype or be a certain kind of person. We do this because we want to express who we are. And I think that moment when you look in the mirror and you see you, it's beautiful, honestly. It's just so warm and happy. And that's why we do this. That's why we experience the tough parts of being trans. That moment we hold up like a gender affirming outfit in front of the mirror and you put it on. It's beautiful. It makes you cry tears of joy. And if I was never able to experience that, I don't know where I'd be today. And I'm really thankful. It's not an exaggeration to say transition did save my life. Now, obviously, if I tried to pretend to be some cis guy, I likely could have persisted, lived a long life, that kind of thing. But would it have been a life that made me happy? That I can't say for sure. But what I do know is that the decision I made to start living as a woman filled me with so much joy and happiness that it felt so worth it to me. And there's something so beautiful about finally seeing all the work you put into your transition, and there you are. That's more important than anything in the world. The world kind of starts to bloom, really. There was a part of the road where I'd go for walks to go to the train station, and when I wasn't transitioning, it felt like a really dreary, dark road. But once I transitioned, I began noticing the seasons changing. Every season, the flowers that grew from the side of the gardens and trees were different. They were beautiful. I started taking photos of every single one and compared them and seeing all their beautiful colors. I don't think I'd be able to appreciate that if I wasn't living in the moment, right? Now, what living in the moment is when you feel like you're really there. Not that you're experiencing life from another perspective. Like a third-person video game where the camera's behind the character and you're seeing it that way. No, instead of that, you're seeing it through your own eyes. You're seeing the world right in front of you. And I'm really thankful I can experience that for real and not feel like a spectator in my own life. To feel like I can be a part of the world. Not just a part of it, but a positive part of it. That we can make positive impacts and changes. That we can bless the world with kindness. That's the beauty of transition. The beauty of transition is being yourself and feeling a part of the world around you. Not everyone needs that to feel that way. But for me as a trans person, it was the only way. For me. Sure, there's cis people that come to this kind of conclusion for different ways. Perhaps overcoming depression and understanding that's natural emotion and processing and knowing how to have good coping strategies. Or perhaps other various obstacles, maybe fitness goals or career goals or just anything that brings you joy. There's so many pieces of life that kind of give you that sense of presence, the thing that makes you feel a part of the world around you. And we all in the world achieve that in a different way. And I don't want to portray transness as the only way. The world's too diverse for any singular way to find happiness. However, for me, as an individual that happens to identify as a transgender woman, transitioning made the world light into color. It made the world feel real. It made me no longer want to hide in my room and just stare at a computer monitor. It made me want to see the world and enjoy all the things I love to do. And I'm really thankful I get to do it. Out of every time period that could exist, that has ever existed. I'm glad I was born when I was and when I could live when I do. I'm thankful for it, deeply. I'm glad I got to see the world finally bloom into color before I was doomed for an endless sea of grey. The world did feel really hopeless before. Pre-transition, nothing felt fulfilling. I grinded endlessly in Japanese study just to feel something. And ultimately I didn't. And that's okay. What matters is I found the way in the end. And I'm really proud of that, truly. I hope you find what makes the world light up for you. Whether you happen to be trans yourself, on the journey, or perhaps past it, or maybe a cis person watching that finds that spark in life another way. And we have all sorts of reasons that bring us color in the world around us. It can be all sorts of things. And it's beautiful. Yeah, transition alone didn't give me this joy, but it was such a big part of it. Sure, as everyone likes to say, I think this has become a very quoted thing, but as someone once said, being transgender didn't save the life, but transition made the life worth saving. It opens up your world and lets you care about yourself. A decision for yourself, for your own happiness. Isn't that beautiful? So yeah, I understand transition topics are filled with negativity, needless yelling, information that should probably be fact-checked, random allegations, what have you. I understand the world's really loud for people like us, but that doesn't mean that your world has to be filled with purely grey. You have to do what finds you happiness in the context you're in. Do what you can to feel the brightest light possible. And your future self will thank you for finding happiness in your own way. How does one do that? Depends on who you are. For me, it was transition, getting into a good exercise routine, taking time to explore the world, and throwing away selfishness to try to be kind to others. All sorts of things. So, I hope this video at least helped you know what you wanted to do. And saw that being trans isn't some horrible political football. Well, not just a political football. We're human beings and we just exist. And how much of a blessing is it to exist? I hope that everyone's world can exist with beautiful colors. And I wish anyone listening to this just a great day, great week, great year. Try your best to be authentically you. Only you decide who that is. Not a silly person in a video, but you're the greatest influence of all. Yourself. Be yourself, however you want to do that. If anyone had any moments that really brought them that color in the world, I'd love to hear it in the comments. Yes, obviously it increases engagement, but I would like to hear some uplifting stories. Alright, I believe we've reached the end of the video. So if you want to see more uplifting trans content, be sure to like, subscribe, comment. I mostly comment. I actually like comments the most. But subscribe too. And when you're listening to this, I'm currently recovering from bottom surgery in Thailand, which is a crazy thought. Yeah. Oh, and if you happen to play Fortnite, I have a creator code if you're interested. Okay. Admittingly, self-indulgent self-promotion aside, I hope this video helped. I shall depart and go have some nice food. Thanks for listening, and hope the video brought joy and happiness in a tricky time. I know it can feel isolating and it can feel like all we talk about is the bad parts of being trans, and I understand. I get why we do it. It's hard, but there's beauty to it, and I hope that video highlighted it. As always, stay hydrated and know that you are valid. Until next time.